Hey everybody, welcome back to Giant Talk, the world's first OKR podcast. It's Lawrence back with you today, hosting this one. Thank you to Roger for taking over the last one for me. And I'm really happy to announce that I've got Alex Rifman joining me today, who is the regional director of a company called Anomali. Alex, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Lawrence.
No problem at all. So I believe you're speaking to us from your home in Chicago. As most of the world right now, you are also on lockdown. So we're doing this over Zoom, of course.
That's correct. A lockdown with the rest of the world.
It's certainly strange times that we're living in, but thankfully we've got technology, which means we can continue to bring the podcast to all of our listeners. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Alex. You know, your background and who Anomali are and what you do there.
Sure. So my name is Alex Rifman, and I'm currently a regional director at a company called Anomali. We are a San Francisco startup founded in 2013, and what we do is provide threat intelligence solutions to our customers worldwide. What I personally do is I manage customers, and I manage a team that is responsible for providing the most value to our customers. So our customer base is our customer.
Okay, and what is it? You know, you say threat solutions, was it? And that sounds awfully serious, but can you just break that down a little bit more for us? You know, what does that entail?
Sure. Essentially, our customers have the opportunity to track their own threats in the platform that we provide. We have a couple of different products and services, but at the root of it all, what customers are able to do is defend against threats that are internet-based, so cyber threats. So, for example, globally, there could be threats that are targeting healthcare right now. And right. we essentially help customers track those kinds of threats and then automatically defend against them in various security solutions that might be deployed in their environment.
Okay, interesting. So sounds like you're one of these companies that is super important behind the scenes, doing a lot of work and a lot of tracking that a lot of people haven't heard of, I suppose.
Exactly. A lot of our work is sort of in the background, but when there are essentially keeping companies out of the headlines. So that's how we measure our success and failure.
Sure. So I imagine a lot of your customers are household names for people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That sounds like a really interesting industry to be working in. And you mentioned it's San Francisco based, is it?
Correct. We're headquartered in San Francisco, but we have offices all over the world now. We've been around for 5 years.
Right.
So we have quite a few customers outside the United States as well.
And what sort of headcount have you got in terms of staff then?
Yeah, we're up to about, we're still a small company, but we're over 200 employees worldwide.
Okay.
So
I'm not sure you can call yourselves a startup anymore then.
That's true. We still call ourselves a startup though.
Startup mentality. Yeah. Small company numbers. That's the best way to be, I think.
Straddling that line.
Absolutely. You've got to keep that startup mentality. That's what keeps things fun and fresh and innovative, right?
That's right.
Cool. So how many are in your team then, Alex?
Sure. So I manage a team of 7 currently.
Right.
So it's a fairly small, lean team. And our focus is on the East Coast of the United States.
Right. Understood. And it's a sales and customer accounts team?
No, we're the team that I manage is 100% post-sales. So
okay, brilliant.
Sales engagement other than handover from the sales team.
Sure.
But our job is essentially to make sure that the customer gets the value that they expect from our product lines.
Okay, understood. So you're using OKRs then at Anomaly, are you?
That's right. That's right. We're big fans.
Okay, so that's a typical thing we find with these small companies that want to keep that startup mentality. OKRs seem to go hand in hand with that. Would you agree?
I agree with that. Absolutely. As long as we are cognizant of changes and are able to adjust the OKRs as necessary.
So keeping that agility.
Yeah, exactly.
But am I right in thinking that Anomaly isn't the first time you've experienced OKRs?
That's right. I was at a large company prior to Anomaly, and I experienced OKRs there as well, but as a recipient of the objectives and not the person who sets them.
Right.
And in my previous experience, it it wasn't as useful because the OKRs didn't match up very well with the actual true on the ground objectives.
Mm. So there was definite misalignment.
Absolutely. And I think it tends to be true in various, the larger the organizations, the more true it tends to be, because, and then, the OKRs become less useful as a result.
Yeah, understood. And were OKRs used throughout that entire organization?
Yeah, I believe so. It was sort of a top-down kind of approach. So OKRs were set at the very top of the company and pushed down as measurable objectives to the rest of the organization.
Right,
Yeah.
understood. So it didn't really allow much innovation from the rest of the staff to contribute the direction they believe they should be going in.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mm. Okay, so how was it different at Anomaly then? How have things kind of taken a different turn?
Well, it's wildly different at Anomaly because we are very well aware of what our objectives actually are, and then it's just a matter of setting the correct uh, metrics around how you report on the how you've attained the objectives. So it's because we're able to set them, we can very clearly and effectively measure against them, and then there's not any surprises whether we achieved the objectives or not by the rest of the team.
Okay, interesting. And how many layers of OKRs have you got then? Have you just got them set for the leadership team, or do they roll all the way down to an individual level, or is it something a bit in between?
No, they're set at the regional director level with so our everyone reports. We're a pretty flat organization, so everybody
Right.
reports up to a C level, and the objectives are set at the C level, but they're distributed to the individuals in every team. And so every individual team member on my team is aware of their objectives and how they can achieve them, and they
Right.
know exactly when they when they reach them or when they aren't able to reach them throughout the quarter.
Absolutely. It sounds like a much better way of doing it already.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
So when did you first introduce OKRs at Anomaly then?
So I was not the person to introduce them at Anomaly, but they were introduced 2 years ago when we actually moved into a reporting structure through this other kind of platform where it was very simple and straightforward to track the objectives and the
Right.
results associated to those objectives. So when we moved into that platform, we were able to implement OKRs very effectively for the entire company.
Okay, good. And did you get it right first time?
No, I don't think we got it right the first time,
I
but
appreciate your honesty.
we adjusted them though fairly quickly. Um, because when we first rolled them out, the objectives that were set were all about growth and how to expand as quickly as possible. But then when we realized that that was not the true objective, we adjusted the OKRs immediately at the next quarter and started measuring what was important.
Okay. So it sounds like that you learned from your mistakes pretty quick there. Failing fast is one of our mantras. So we're happy with that. And you feel like they're working better now, or have there been more tweaks along the way?
They are working for us very well. The tweaks are still needed, right? Because as we're seeing recently, OKRs 6 months ago, the world today is wildly different. So, I think even in a company like ours, where failing fast, as to borrow your words, we even 6 months ago, the OKRs that we set were applicable, but today may not be, right?
Sure.
Because of coronavirus,
situation with coronavirus,
ongoing pandemic. Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this then: the OKRs that kind of were no longer applicable, what have you done with those? Have you just parked them for now, or are you still trying to scramble your way towards them?
No, they've definitely been parked. So I'll give you an example. What we track today is renewal numbers, right? Renewals at quarterly cohorts and annual cohorts of customers, and is our basic kind of metric. But just a year ago, we were mostly learned about upsells and expansion, right? So in today's world, obviously we our priorities have changed, and our customers' priorities have changed.
Of course. So have you set new OKRs then for the current climate?
Well, we're in the process of doing that right now. Our quarters, because we're on a quarterly, we actually have 1 month to revise the OKRs and then decide what it is that we're actually going to be measuring on. For example, one of the OKRs that we have right now has to do with being on site with customers. And
that's not going to work.
Right. So that one is a clear one that none of the team is expected to attain. Right.
Sure.
So we have to find a different metric, and maybe we, to borrow your words again, park. But we certainly don't expect anyone to achieve it.
Koan is a purpose-built solution for managing OKRs, helping teams achieve their objectives, getting them aligned, and staying engaged. Sharing spreadsheets simply doesn't scale when you're growing a business. But with Koan, you can scale OKRs across your entire business whilst keeping teams motivated and moving in the right direction.
And are your OKRs linked to reward and compensation in any way?
Yes, they are.
Interesting.
Our OKRs are directly linked to our merit bonuses.
Okay, very interesting. So what are you doing in the current situation then to account for that, I suppose, where there are OKRs that just can't be hit? Is it an easy system?
Well, yes. Because we're in a startup, the results are measured on a spreadsheet, and it's pretty straightforward to adjust them, and they're submitted to our payroll system every quarter, but the regional directors have that control.
Okay, I see. But you do have the ability to adjust and deconstruct and reconstruct for the necessary changes.
Yes, although a pandemic was a little bit unforeseen, we are gonna, we do have the flexibility to adjust that.
That's good.
The results.
Good to hear. Okay, so like you say, you're a small company, startup mentality. You tried to give OKRs a go, realized it wasn't quite working, rehashed them, rewrote them, and are now pretty well on track, you reckon? What processes have you put in place around OKRs, from the way you actually get everyone in the room to set them, to how you follow through against them over the course of a quarter?
Yeah. So we both with the stakeholders and with the team, the entire team, to talk about the objectives. And there are some stretch objectives that we essentially look to the team to help us set.
Right.
And for the basic objectives, our C-level sets them, right? So renewal numbers, that. But the stretch goals we essentially leave our team.
Okay, great. And then how? And they're recorded in a spreadsheet, you said?
No, we use a system, a platform.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
So a dedicated piece of software for it.
A dedicated piece of software. Yeah, it tracks other things as well, but this is one of the features of the platform.
Cool. That makes a big difference. Tracking them in spreadsheets is very hard as soon as you're more than 10 to 15 people, really, I would say.
That's right. I concur.
So how do your teams get together to discuss progress and things then? Is that, are there routines in place around that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We meet, one-on-ones are actually mandated by our C-level.
Right.
So it's from the top down, but I'm a firm believer in one-on-ones as well. So once I meet with every single person on my team to go over their progress and how they're doing, and how they're able to, how far they think they can get with the objectives that we've set. And then we actually show it on a progress meter for the entire company. So it rolls up into the top tier objectives.
So do the teams get together and chat about it, or is it just a one-on-one thing?
Well, the teams can probably get together. It's not mandatory, but the team gets together once a week as well. I'm not sure that this is a topic that always comes up week, but it's definitely top of mind for everyone.
Right, I see. So the teams get together and the OKRs can be part of the agenda if they need to be, but aren't necessarily mandated to be.
Correct, exactly.
And do you find those routines work well to keep the staff aligned behind the OKRs and to make sure traction continues? Yes.
Well, we have a dashboard that essentially is visible to everybody in the company, and so there's multiple dashboards, of course, but the primary dashboard rolls up. So individual progress actually rolls up to our C-level staff. And so everyone is aware of how their actions and performance impacts the rest of the company. And so there's never any question. So you don't necessarily have to have a meeting in order to see where you are and how you've progressed. But it's available to everybody in a dashboard.
Interesting. So we've talked about coronavirus a little bit, and how a lot of people are going to be resetting their OKRs and rehashing things right now. And I know it wasn't a pandemic that caused you to look at your OKRs last time, but it was a reaction, wasn't it, to market changes? Is that right?
So at least anticipatory market changes for us.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So you saw something on the horizon which caused you to pivot a little bit?
Right. Well, we're here. Obviously, we interact with Fortune 500 customers every day, and we're hearing from those customers that there is impact from the pandemic, although not everyone is quite sure about what that is for specific business and in various lines of business. But we know that there is going to be impact. So we are, of course, reevaluating how we fit into an overall strategy long term. And so we have to adjust and reconsider what our OKRs look like and which OKRs make sense in today's pandemic environment.
Okay. But when you reevaluated them the first time, that was because of the recession. So you've kind of gone through this before. So do you feel confident in doing it again now? You think you have the tools and expertise to pivot efficiently?
I don't want to oversell the confidence. I think a pandemic is unprecedented,
Sure.
and economists kind of agree on the fact that there is going to be impact to the global economy. But it's very difficult for me as a regional director to predict what the world is going to look like even in 6 months. All I do know for sure is that we will have to adjust our OKRs to accommodate for this new reality.
Sure. You mentioned a little bit earlier that renewals were basically the number one metric for you guys that everybody looks at. And I can imagine that your team play a really direct part in that, looking after the customers. If you're doing a bad job of looking after the customers, they're not going to renew, I guess, is the long and short of it. So are there any areas where you feel that it's difficult to align your team, or do you think, you guys just really have the get up and go straight from the bottom up to be able to impact these things?
We're very fortunate in our world to have very much a direct impact on the customer relationship, right? We know a great customer success manager can make a huge impact to the renewal number. Yeah. And we actually have empirical evidence to say that definitively. If you the opposite is also true. If you have a very poor customer success manager, then they will not be able to show the value that they need to be able to show to the customers, and we're much more likely to churn a customer. So for me, I think we pretty much have an easy job here. It's just making sure that we retain the best people so that we can continue to have great renewal numbers.
Right.
But the renewal numbers are the fundamental metric by which we measure the performance of our entire company.
Right. So if you're allowed to share with us, what are the sorts of metrics that you measure within your team to make sure, you're on track to do that?
Yeah, well, so I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but one of the metrics we were using just until recently is how often our customers invite us to have strategic conversation with them on site.
Interesting. Right.
So, and we know that there is a strong correlation between being invited to those meetings and renewal numbers. Unfortunately, thanks to the pandemic and coronavirus, we no longer have this metric. We can still, and the table is virtual, but we were having virtual meetings before the pandemic as well, and there is a much lower correlation between virtual meetings and renewals. So this is one of the metrics that we are reevaluating right now.
Okay, so this is a really clear leading indicator then for you guys that's going to get you to the renewals, which I suppose is the lagging metric in this instance.
Exactly. Although clearly it's no longer reliable.
No, changes have to take place, of course, but it's interesting that for yourselves, you can see that pointing really clearly, and that you can see the converse, that prior to the current situation, having been invited to those meetings virtually doesn't lead to the same impact on renewals as being there in person did. That's pretty staggering information, actually.
Oh, well, I'm glad to share it then. Interesting.
No, absolutely, because me and Roger, who's the founder of Derby Giants, we've spent a lot of time recently talking about leading and lagging metrics, and being very careful to look for causation and not correlation, and all those different things that you need to really make sure that what you're measuring is actually going to move those top line needles. And it's interesting to hear of different examples, so that's really cool. So Alex, let's kind of wrap this up a little bit then. You've seen OKRs used in a very large organization in your old telecoms role. You've seen OKRs used during this startup journey to where you are now at Anomali. If you had one piece of advice you could give to a company or a CEO or any sort of individual that was just about to get going on their OKR journey, what would that be?
So my strong recommendation is be as flexible as possible. And when starting out, keep it simple. Really distill the objectives into what is important to the organization, and start with those objectives first.
Yes. I think that's fantastic advice, actually. And it's more likely that the teams will be able to buy into those simple objectives first, and understand their part to play in them, I would have thought.
Yeah, it's easier to translate and explain OKRs to the team when they're simple and straightforward.
Yeah, no, I really like that advice. That's fantastic. Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure the listeners will have taken a lot from it as well. It's a fascinating use for OKRs in a really interesting industry.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Lawrence. I appreciate
no problem
this
at all. Absolutely. And to all our listeners out there, thank you so much for joining us in what is certainly uncertain times. I hope you will stay home and stay safe and look after each other. And if there's anything we can help you with to do with your OKRs, you know where we are. Just ring us up for a chat. That's no problem at all. But until next week's episode, stay safe, and we'll talk to you all later. Thanks again for tuning into Giant Talk, world's first OKR podcast.